I was really struck by the way that this documentary opened, and watching the immediate differences in work cultures. We see them like doing calisthenics as a team, and it seems like it's going to be really light, but then it turns pretty emotional when we see the CEO's sort of like humility and kind of shame when he comes out to the whole company and the whole team saying why the company is tanking and that he has to lay everybody off and he vows to them. And I think that really set the tone for what this film kind of is, and also starts to pull at threads about the CEO's personal growth that's going to happen, or sort of foreshadows that. And it really impacted me when he seeks out some intergenerational wisdom, and hears that life is about being satisfied with oneself. Seeing that juxtaposed in the film with the perseverance of him and his startup in the gaming world, and seeing all the highs and lows throughout his journey as a CEO was really interesting.
I think of it as like a email like re-startup, but also re-startup as in like persevering and the story in general. Um, I yeah, I think it's a really great look at the gaming world and the gaming industry. It's not something that I was familiar with, but the hard work that goes into that and the many people that you employ and then in this case unemploy. Um, but having to go through that and figure out how to move past move past the inability to pay your staff and still continuing with the startup and moving on, and rebuilding that community and from the ground up and finding that. I think it's really inspirational. I think it's very motivational as well. um, I think anytime you're working with tech or some sort of creative industry, um, and gaming combines both of those, there's a lot at stake, and this really highlights that, and it does it in a really compelling story.
We are taken on this journey of failure and overcoming failure, and kind of this notion as to keep going forward and to not give up, to be able to adapt and change in an ever so changing environment. We get to see this journey at essentially the epitome of their downfall. This moment where they are having to restructure the company, do a massive array of layoffs. This really sad, intense moment, but it kind of shows the integrity of the people that they have at their company. We see that people resign and give others the opportunity to stay so that they can seek out better opportunities, which I think is just such a moment that you get to really care for these people. And we're seeing this journey through the CEO's eyes, along with many others that are part of the company. We get to see them succeed. Now, with that in mind, we also see again that failure is something that comes up time and time again. And in this way that we get to see this executed, we get to see the way that people adapt and the way people grow and learn and come together. And it's just really nice to see this community not give up and be able to shift and adapt in, a vast amount of ways to keep up with the industry that they're in.
I think it was really interesting to see both the CEO's approach to managing the team and managing the products and the different challenges that arose, and how the company responded to that. It was interesting to meet some of the employees and hear their stories and motivations, see the work that they were creating, and see the passion flowing through. I liked the animation style that highlighted some of the different concepts throughout. I think that was a really creative way of presenting certain topics, and also a lot more visually interesting. I think it did a really interesting job of reflecting on the state of a company in today's technologically driven world, and what it means to stay competitive, both from an employee's perspective, a CEO's perspective, and the company's perspective.
We really get to dive into his world by the way the camera is set up like reality TV, but we know it's a documentary. We see the story start off with the company losing its workers and relocating to somewhere smaller because the loss of profits and their games not ranking well. Over time, the CEO's willingness to take risks pays off and his game hits number one, and the company is offered future deals. I think this isn't only about being a motivational story for businessmen, women, indie game designers, or anyone alike, but it's also just really informational. I learned a lot in that hour and 20 minutes, more than some of the lectures I get at college. Like how the more ads companies invest in for their product, the more profit they'll make. There's all these sort of obstacles and hurdles the CEO faces that makes it a real genuine journey and experience for all. And I think his relationship with his workers being explored is such an interesting touch to the film that ties it all really well together. Everyone at the company has this sort of dynamic where the CEO can be a bit strict, but also sensible with his workers and quirky and aloof, which makes it a bit more lighthearted. Then there's that one 22-year-old tech student fresh out of college that happened to be the CEO's most loyal worker. He happened to be my favorite character and stood out to me because when the CEO gave him a raise by the end of the film, once the game reached number one, he just wanted to share that money with all the other workers and really didn't care if the game made profits. He just wanted a fan base and following for it. It's just very interesting to see how people work and think at these jobs.
I think perseverance is the best word to describe this documentary. It shows the inside of the gaming world, which is something I had no knowledge on. I didn't understand all the emotional roller coaster that came with it, but it's like any other art form where you have your highs and you have your very down lows, but you continue to persevere, which is what this game maker does, and the filmmaker too, where he said at the end they're inspiring each other. The fact that he was able to revive this and he keeps plunging forward with his company and he's deciding to not give up makes it amazing, really. It's showed the realities of this world they're in, where they have to keep up with the changing IT tech as they're coming up with games and the changing of the social media ads and competing with everything that's out there, all the competition. It's showing what they're doing and that they don't give up. This is a really thought-provoking documentary because it shows a world that many of us just don't know anything about, and how strong perseverance is, and that you can't ever give up.